Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Give me a second for my technology to load up here. Great. So, does anybody have any idea what an agent operating system is? You probably all use it yourself. Basically, it's the rules by which you run your business. And there's a good quote that I've mentioned a few times, which is you don't rise to the level of your goals or your motivation, but you fall to the level of your systems. Okay, you can't outwork and outmotivate yourself to overcome weak systems and poor structure. So today's session, I want to talk about the core principles of an operating system for agents to run their business, and it's equally applicable to teams as well. All right. Does anybody actually have a written system that you follow? And it can even be just on Mondays, I do this, Tuesdays, I do that. Anybody have that and want to volunteer? We have a shy group here, huh?
So Kim Cameron, I'm with the Kim Cameron group, and she's got an ops manual.
And what are some of those principles that you have there in your operating system? Is it how to handle particular tasks, or is it structure to do things on a regular basis, or both?
It's twofold. It's operations manual for me. So if I'm not here, how to run things. But it's also a full ops manual for how things run in the office. What happens on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, reoccurring tasks, and then how to log in. I know it sounds crazy, but we keep like all of our passwords for stuff rather than having it online. But if there's any tasks that you want to do, whether it's marketing, how to door knock. We are door knocking at a new level. Like that is now in the ops manual. So anything you want to do on the team, if you've got a question, there are certain things that we have at a paper level. And then I'm going to let Jennifer chat or chime in unless you've got more questions on that.
Yeah, Jennifer.
Okay.
You have anything to add, Jen?
No, I mean, she's just very proficient at every step of the way. It's, make sure that we're in our business or on our business at certain times each week, keeping those weekly meetings. She is really well at keeping everything organized on the calendar. So if we do need something, we can go straight to the calendar and see what's going on.
So it sounds like that makes the business a little bit more predictable, right?
Yes, and the structure. The structure is amazing in this business because I'm guessing there's a lot of agents just like myself that, chaos in this business. So if you don't have that ops manual, that structure in place, things can go awry. And that's where your business goes up and down instead of being consistent.
Yep. And if you were looking at a agent's business to buy, right? And somebody made 50,000, 300,000, 100,000, and then 50,000, or somebody that made 150 every year, which would be more attractive to you?
The 150 a year, the steady income.
Right, the stability, right? There's value into the predictability and stability of the income, and that's only consistently generated by having systems and systems that you rely on and utilize. Okay. And I think you did a great job of outlining the fact that, I think Kim has systems for, even basics like door knocking. I'm guessing that she has a system to launch a new listing. Do you have a system to um, bring on a new buyer?
We have an 8-week onboarding.
Yes.
What? We have an 8-week onboarding.
Oh, yeah, we have the 8-week onboarding.
And that's for that's for a buyer?
Yep.
Or an agent? Okay.
For a buyer.
Oh, yeah. Buyer's agent is what I was talking about. Oh, okay. I'll chime in.
Yeah. So Kim, when you have a buyer, do you have a system for everything that you do, like a checklist?
Yeah.
We do.
Yes.
And
sorry, we're swamped today, so I've been working on another computer and kind of not paying attention. I'm going to have you lower your volume now because we're in the same office. What was the question? We have an onboarding for anybody that joins the team. But as far as a buyer's agent, yeah, we have systems for everything. So we've got a consistent system for bringing on a new buyer, from what goes in the buyer's kit in exact order on left side of the folder, right side of the folder. Behind me in that cabinet, and you've been in my office, you'll find every pamphlet you need, and it is labeled buyer, seller, and both. And expectations for setting that buyer consultation. Never going to a property with a blank buyer's agency with somebody you don't meet. So we have that, and systems, not only they set you free, but it also ensures that we treat everyone the same and we don't violate fair housing as a result. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah. Yes. I just wanted, because I think a lot of, are you able to hear me, Kim?
Is that just me, or can you guys not hear me there?
We could hear you, Rob.
Okay.
Okay, so, it wasn't just me.
Yeah, I guess it was just you. So I guess I guess what Kim is saying is she's building out systems around the entrepreneurial side. Most agents get into the business, they're entrepreneurial. I think most experiences from agents in the industry are not consistent. Okay. I mean, one time they do it great, it works. The next time it's random. They don't measure their numbers. They don't track. They don't have processes. I think that's why, Kim, you see a lot more teams bringing on newer agents and keeping them longer because of the value they provide. When you're given the independence, sometimes that's a double edge. Okay. Sometimes that's something that works against us. For building, in my opinion, a sustainable, growing agent operating system, you need to have, where you're going, right? Where do you want to land the plane? Where do you want to be at the end of the day? Is it 100,000, 500,000? You want to make diamond? You want to do $1 million? Well, there's a plan for that. And then you kind of work backwards. You need to have, quarterly goals, because I think everybody has an opportunity to improve a certain segment of their business. And if you try to do everything by the end of the year and you don't measure it or you don't accomplish it periodically, it becomes a bigger and a harder challenge to accomplish. Kim, you do a great job of defining your value proposition, right? And you do that, I think, so that you can share it with your team, but it also helps you reinforce what exactly the Kim Cameron team means to work with. And, you had mentioned that you have a strategic plan for buyers, for listings, and I do believe you have a plan for getting referrals as well, correct?
We do.
Yeah. Probably from past clients and also from colleagues, knowing you, correct?
Yeah, I get a lot from teaching, so that's plus. Not to mention you learn so much when you're in front of the classroom, but yeah, I think the key is so much of the mission and core values of who we are as a team is the vibe of our tribe. And when we convey that, when we meet with somebody for the first time and they have our pre-list kit, our buyer's kit, and they see that, our mission statement's really simple. It's building relationships, solving problems, and having fun each day. We happen to, be realtors and we help clients buy, sell, and invest in real estate. But the reality is we're problem solvers. And when we explain that and we keep that at the heart of everything we do as a team, but also the heart of how we convey that to our clients, they're like, oh yeah, we get it. And there's never a question of our motives being anything less than the client first, second, and third. So
thank you. And for those of you on camera, who has a coach that you hire? Raise your hand if you have a coach. I'm gonna go on. Not many. Who has an accountability partner? I don't see anybody. I don't. Do you see any hands for the accountability partner? So maybe that's something that you might want to. Cindy, you have an accountability partner, and Cindy's our broker in Arizona. So Cindy, you have an accountability partner. You said you're on mute.
Sorry, I was on my phone. I can never find how to unmute on my phone. I apologize. Yeah, I have an accountability partner. It's actually a broker that is in Baltimore that I've known for 15 years, and we do a monthly call with one another to just kind of stay in touch and help each other with our business. It's been good. I used to do Buffini religiously for years, so I stepped away from that. But the accountability partner scenario where you're really putting some things down on paper that you're going to accomplish in the next month and then holding each other accountable really does help.
And do you have a written business plan for your personal business?
I do.
And how often do you review it?
About every 2 months.
And now you've been in the business for 20 plus years, correct?
Yeah, 29 years, coming on
And you're
29 years.
and you're still doing that.
Yeah.
So for those of you who've been in the business lesser time, it doesn't mean that you're green or more amateur by doing a business plan. It kind of just keeps you steady. And I know your significant other, your husband's a pilot, right? I assume they have a
All right.
checklist, and even though he's been flying for many years, he probably goes through the checklist every time, I'm guessing, right?
Every time, like every time he checks the fluids and the tires and everything before they take off.
Right. And being that he's done it has he been flying for many years?
30 plus years.
So 30 plus years. So he doesn't just say, oh, I know that I looked at the tire. Like there's a checklist that you go through. And I think there's something that we can take away from that experience because the consequences are severe if you miss a check box, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So for us, like having, checking the boxes of the things that we do that are important does have meaning, not just saying, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. I don't need to go through that exercise because 30 plus years flying, one might say that, but yet they still do it. And I think every legitimate pilot does it regardless of how many years experience they have. Do you have do you time block, Cindy? Because you do a lot of you're our broker, you do agent problem solving. I'm sure things interrupt your calendar, but do you time block?
I do time block, and I'm trying to get even more detailed on the time blocking because it does really help. Because I also do some volunteer work and instructing in our industry. So if I don't time block, then they always say, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. And it really does help when you time block. So.
Yep. So I'm going to talk briefly some of the core systems, and I'm going to tie this in a little bit later. Database management. And Cindy, I want to just have a dialogue with you. If you were to just give me your gut with your experience, both locally and being active with the National Association of Real Estate or Realtors, what grade would you give the industry for database management at the agent level?
Probably like a 5 or a 6. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people intend to use it, but they don't. So
if you were even with a curve, you'd be a D or an F if you were in school with a 50 or a 60. I would agree with you, by the way, and I'd say that's a huge opportunity because so many of us do so well without mastering that. Let's see, referral engine. What that means is being able to utilize your database and to have systems like going to R4 or coming on these events to get predictable referrals. Okay. I think one of the things for many years that people had overemphasized is lead generation or lead flow because everybody wants to gather leads. They want to gather potential rocks, right? But the real win is in the conversion, and the conversion is in the communication and the systems, right? It's easy to get leads. You put your credit card on file, and there's a million places that will take your money and give you leads. And whether the leads are good or bad is not just a function of where you're getting them from, but it's about what you do with the lead. Okay.
Yeah.
Follow-up cadence. Cindy, this one's going to be painful, but what do you think the stats are about agent follow-up across the industry? If you're given a grade of 0 to 10.
Probably 4 or 5, because the National Association stats show that most people would use the same realtor if they remembered who they were. Like,
And I think a pure 40% of all inbound inquiries never get responded to.
mhm.
And I want to say that probably 70% or more, it's more than 24 hours before any response is provided.
Right.
And although that's chilling and disappointing, it's an opportunity for those who are willing to commit to being different. So we talked a little about follow-up cadence and marketing. I think marketing is a personal expression. Everybody does it a little bit differently. I think with technology and we've gone from kind of optimizing yourself online to optimizing yourself through artificial intelligence. And I think that's the next generation of opportunity for us. And, the AI is not going to put agents out of business. It's going to put agents that don't embrace AI out of business, or it's going to significantly impair your ability to earn the same amount of income. And the ones who do embrace it, it's going to give them leverage to grow their business.
Mhm.
And this is something that I know Kim's team and I think you on your personal business, Cindy, have this down pat. But a listing process, like a checklist, so you don't miss something. Being in your role, making sure deposits are collected, incredibly important. Making sure that you're compliant, all the signatures and initials are done correctly. Making sure that offers and negotiations are done properly and compliantly. Post-closing follow-up, referral generation. I think a lot of times we think of when we get the check and all the paperwork is done, that's appropriate. But if there's one thing you might want to take away from today is maybe you visit a week and a month after they close on their house. That would probably be a high value use of your time. Okay. And how many agents do you think visit a week after and a month after the closing? I don't know. Sarah, I'm
I
going to
think
ask you, like, what do you think? Do you think many agents follow up like within a week and a month after the closing, or are they just, taking that commission check and spending it? What do you think?
A lot of times they take it and go spend it. It's definitely something that people forget about, or if it's been a long transaction, they surely are happy to be over with it, and then it just disappears, and it's terrible to see.
Right, because what happens is here, the end of the line is the closing for most agents, and you need to add a couple of extra steps because when somebody's satisfied, and I think, our team here in particular, but even the industry overall, does a reasonable job of satisfying the client, but we do a very suboptimal job of following up and harvesting the benefit of the service we provided.
So I don't know if
and
you heard, I don't know if you heard about the market. I guess it was like a market test that some agents had done where they created a fake agent. And so what they did is they went door knocking. They said, "Hey, who do you use for your, preferred agent?" Well, I'm not really sure. A lot of people didn't have a good idea of who they would normally use. They farmed the neighborhood with a fake agent, and then they went door knocking again. And that was 95% of those homeowners' responses was that actual fake agent. So honestly, as long as you're following up and getting your name in front of them, you're going to be the first thing that pops in their mind when they get asked.
yeah, Fran Blakely, were you familiar with that study as well? I don't know if Fran's still on, but I think she mentioned that in one of our meetings.
It was pretty incredible.
Nope, I'm not familiar with that study where anyone's gone out and done that. I do know that
Yeah.
NAR is making some massive changes with the technology and things they're going to be providing for agents on a day-to-day basis to better improve their business. They're becoming more agent-centric. So I do know that.
So, yeah, I think that, if the end of the chart ends with the file compliant and the check in your account, right? Which is what I think a lot of agents, that's the end of the line. Then there's two extra steps that can provide you with residual income from that transaction, right? Because there's one thing that's better than a closed transaction. That's three closed transactions. Okay. And that can be done systematically. And I believe if you did that to all your clients, at a minimum, you would get every other client, you would get a closed transaction. Every other client, you can get a closed transaction. Okay.
Hey, Rob, Wilson's got a great story that he put in the comments, so you might want to ask him about it.
Mr. Wilson, you're
Hey,
in the spotlight. You're in the spotlight.
oh no, I don't thrive there at all.
Hey,
Yeah,
this time it's good though.
yeah, I've transferred away from like the normal closing gifts. So I just closed on a house. It was a guy's first house, and we went over and built his smoker. I brought ribs over, a cigar. We sat there for over 2 hours, 3 hours, on the porch just talking. And he's already sent me two referrals. I brought my homemade barbecue sauce. I was like, hey, here's my recipe for cooking ribs. It takes 7 hours. It's absolutely the best ribs you'll ever taste. He shared that recipe with family, friends. The referral said, hey, I heard you knew how to make ribs. I'd like to buy a house so you could teach me. And then like this weekend, I'm now going over to help a very good client of mine build a garden bed for his mother. It's that the fact that I'm giving them my personal time after the commission check has cleared, that has transferred into just a complete change in how I do my business. And it gets me out in the community. It gets me out with my clients. It's turned into a really cool opportunity.
And Wilson's leading us out in Tucson. And Wilson, one of the things that I do believe, our agents do a fantastic job. And, having this extra step or two of follow-up is not, it doesn't come across as you're out there bringing them a cigar and ribs because you want a new lead. You're doing that because you want to continue the relationship and let them know that this is not the end of the relationship, right?
Yeah, well, the reality is what's gonna serve my relationship 5 years down the road. What's gonna remember them when that agent door knocks or leaves something on their door or in their mail? What's going to keep me first of mind? And it's the personal touch that I gave. It's not that closing gift or the text message that said thank you. It's the fact that I gave up hours in my day when I could have been working to make sure that something was taken care of, that I gave them my personal time. It was a being of service, which is just a different touch than most realtors do.
Wonderful. Well, hey, well, thank you. Look at that's what makes this business so personal and unique because the Wilsons and the Cindys and the Kims and the Sierras and everybody can have their own brand of delivering that extra value. And I always like to bring it back to things that resonate with me. And if you wanted to generate leads, where do you think the highest quality lead that you can buy is, or generally accepted highest quality lead that you can buy is?
Word of mouth.
Well, that's not bought. I think most of us would say that, if you wanted to get like buyer leads or an occasional seller lead, probably Zillow is the benchmark. Would you all agree? Right? And Zillow's kind of setting the price for what the value of a lead is. And I am not in any way encouraging you to go put money on your credit card to buy Zillow leads. To be honest, I think that's probably a lazy way of investing in your business, in my opinion. And if you're investing on Zillow, don't take that personal. But what it does, it shares with you the value of generating a lead. And if you look at the value of generating a lead, maybe you would follow up on it a little bit more promptly, a little bit more consistently. Okay. In Union, New Jersey, which is kind of like a midpoint for the county, probably average home price, maybe 650. Does that sound right? Anybody from Union, Adona, sound right? Like 650, 700,000.
That sounds about right.
You're probably going to pay $700 for a live call transfer. Okay, and Adona, what do they say the good agents are targeting to close on these inbound leads?
Can you
Like an
repeat your
absolute rock
question?
star is what? So in Zillow standards, if Zillow sales rep is coming to you and say, "Hey, our best people close X," like what do they say their best people close? In it between 5 and 10%?
About
I,
5
I
to
don't think
10.
I don't think anybody's going to even portray a closing rate, even from the GOAT, the greatest of all time, more than 15%. Okay. So if the average is probably 5% is good, that means you got to multiply that by 20. So 700 times 20 is $14,000 for a closed lead. And that commission in Union's probably barely 14,000 to begin with. That's why I call that a bad investment in Rob Lazar's opinion of growing your business. A good investment is to take that $800, do something of value like Wilson's doing, but even more importantly, recognize that Wilson, if you had $800 on your desk and it disappeared tomorrow if you didn't call it, how long would you wait to call it?
Call immediately.
You'd call it immediately, right? Because now you have a price for that opportunity, and that's what Zillow has done for me. And Adona and I work a lot to try to figure out if we can get into what used to be called flex and agents paying 40% referral fees and enhanced accountability. It's a grind, and you're chasing these people that don't even know who you are, and you're stepping over the people that you worked with in the past that know and respect the business that you did, that we're letting them go into the Zillow ecosystem because we've abandoned them. Okay. So next part of the system is KPIs and scoreboards. Okay. What do you think we should be measuring in our business, like on a much more frequent level than we do every other month? Maybe conversations, appointments, a list of active clients, a robust follow-up list, right? If you talk to somebody and they say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to be traveling the next 2 weeks. Can you give me a call the second week of August?" How many agents do you think are actually going to have the discipline to call them that second week of August?
10 to 20%, maybe.
Right. So that means 80 to 90% are not. That's crazy.
I put it on my calendar.
Right. But I mean,
So,
and
yeah.
Trisha, you are, that's why you are who you are. That's why you're, the top 1 or 2% in the industry, because you do those things. But many of us, and there are many of us that are even on that top 1 or 2% that don't have the systems because we're too damn busy. Okay. But it's really, really important for us to understand that, now you can price that opportunity, right? So if you have somebody who says, "Call me back in 2 weeks," and that opportunity for her to buy it costs you $1,200, well, you're probably going to be a little bit more serious about calling them back, in my opinion, because we now just we monetize that opportunity. Measuring conversations, measuring appointments, measuring active clients. What is an active client? Who wants to tell me what is an active client in your opinion? Nobody.
Communicating with you and
One that gives you referrals.
responsive.
Their time frame buying a house could be from 0 to 90 days. Someone who's actively wanting to see properties.
Yeah. So a career shopper, we've all had those, right? Those are not active buyers. Those are noise that get in the way of making sure that we stay on top of our active buyers. But I do think we should probably consciously, maybe every Monday, put a list of how many active buyers we have. And when that list is abundant, that's great. When that list is minimized, it should be setting alarms off for us, right? It should be then triggering systems for us to have a recovery, right? It's like if the plane is losing altitude right before it crashes, we have to adjust it, right? So if our pipeline is dwindling, you know, let's make an adjustment before we get to the critical point. Follow-up opportunities, active leads, listings taken, contracts written. Now, this is another interesting one. All right. And I'm going to be controversial here and say to you, if you pre-qualify your buyers, and you take a broad enough sample, and that sample might be as little as 10, it might be as little as 20, all your buyers are the same. They're all the same. And if somebody takes 4 contracts and closes, 25% of their active buyers, and somebody else that takes 1.5 contracts and closes 70% of their clients, is that luck? Gary Thomas, in those circumstances, you have two of those different agents. One of them has to write 4 contracts to get one closed. Another one has to write 1.5. Another one closes 65% of their clients. One closes 25%. Is somebody getting bad luck, or is it not luck? You're on mute, Gary. Oh boy, I have to lip read. You're on mute, Gary. I'll give one more second here. And if not, I'll go to another Floridian. I'll go to Sierra. So in those circumstances, is luck play a part, or is that basically process and skill, in your opinion?
Me personally, I think it's a lot of strategy and research and figuring out, making the call prior to making the offer, figuring out if you can make things work. I mean, I feel like I would say I'd have like a 95% of acceptance for contracts that I write. So, but I do a lot of research prior to actually writing the contract.
And it's also not a black and white circumstance. It's influence in that process. I hope it's not me. Can you guys still hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Okay. So what I want to say with this is the harsh reality is, your neighbor or you don't have good luck. You have good systems and you have good skills. And if you feel like you're in an unlucky streak, okay, and if it's more than 10, it's probably a skills or it's gotten to your head, right? Sometimes when you get unlucky, it's because your head is telling you, I've had 3 deals fall apart. This next one's going to fall apart. So we are self-sabotaging it. The client does not know any different. The only consistent part is us. Okay. So we can attract, we nobody's that talented to attract all the difficult clients, even though you might come in the office or you might go online and complain about it. You're not that good. You're getting the same clients as everybody else. It's the process and the way that you handle them. It's the way that you set expectations, right? It's the way that you do your follow-up skills. It's I see Glenn popped on camera. It's the Glenn Baker who endlessly thinks of creative ways to get his offers accepted by his team members who don't have the same skill level as he does. But he's sharing with them, hey, I found out if I send a video, I send it to the listing agent. Most of them just forward it to the client. And then the client gets to hear my version of why they should accept my offer. And then my acceptance rate goes up by what, Glenn? Like it's not minimally, it's like significantly, right?
I never make more than 3 offers ever
per client.
Yep.
Right. But remember when you started doing that and you shared it with us, either on the team leader meeting or on the weekly mastermind, like how big of a difference that had when you forwarded the video along? Do you remember what that impact was or no?
Yeah. So when I send the video, the agent usually watches about 80% because they're not dedicated enough to watch the whole 100% of the video. They forward it on to their client. If they watch it 5 times, I know I won the deal. And they don't even know I know.
Right. But who would like to talk to the seller of the property directly? Like that's not I mean, Robert Garver years ago used to have that opportunity to do that, right? That was the standard, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
And I remember the story you wanted because you had a listing and you were better dressed, and I love that whole story. But that's not realistic today. But the way that we can evolve, right, and even do it more effectively is utilizing video. And if there's 7 offers on there, one has video on it where Glenn's explaining and he's highlighting why his client's offer should get accepted, and the other ones are just an email. And I hate to say it, but Anybody want to put in the chat, like when you get offers, like what percentage of those offers do you not even get a phone call on? It's just an email. Hey, here's an offer. Just put it in the chat, and I want somebody, maybe Adona or Rob Garber, you can total that up. 90% don't. Oh my God, that's 94. So most of the time, we're not even getting a phone call saying, "Hey, Jason Panos, I got an offer coming in on your listing." Like that is insane.
I'm lucky sometimes if I get a text message and I have to go find it in my spam. And luckily I have systems to go look it up. I'll be honest, and I teach the same thing. I agree with Glenn wholeheartedly. If I can't, do a video or something, I don't. I wish I did. I call every single agent because I tell them the position of what my buyer is, and I want to talk to the buyer's agent who's writing my seller an offer, so I understand how best to present it. But if they don't call me, a lot of times, especially if we go multiple offers, they're not the one that's going to get the offer.
So, and Jason, this is all part of the agent operating system. This is part of the manual who makes you who you are,
Mhm.
And I learned lessons by trying to help and failing. I think it's Pat Stracuzzi said that you either you win or you learn, right? It's not you win or you fail. It's you win or you learn. Because if you fail, you should be taking something away from that. Now, I'm going to go back to 2021, the beginning of 2021. I was just telling everybody, try to buy a house while rates are sub 3. And Ricardo in our accounting department, I said, go buy a house, even if you don't have any money. We'll find an agent. We'll give you the commission back because you work for us here and buy your first house. So he was paying newer agents to show him houses and make offers, and nothing was getting accepted. So he calls up, and I think I saw Frank on the line. If he's still here, Frank, do you remember this?
I do. Yep.
And what do you have, like 5 or 6 that weren't accepted, Frank?
Yep. At least.
And yeah, maybe it was more. And he called me up and he's like,
Yeah.
Rob, I have like 4 days before I have to notify my landlord that I need to renew or I'm gonna have to move out. So I told him to go out that weekend, and if you found any houses that you liked, let me know. I'll personally write the offer. I wanted to see how Dot Moop was to work with, and I wrote up the offer, and I submitted it myself. And it wasn't the offer, it wasn't the terms, it was the conversation. And I remember this. I probably will never forget this as long as I'm in the business. I called up Vaughn Smith, and back in those days, agents weren't even answering their phone. They were so busy, right? And he answered the phone, and my response was, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you." And I didn't have that planned. He's like, "Thank you for what?" I'm like, "For answering the phone." And then I talked to him about the offer. And remember, Frank, he wanted to go with full whatever he could afford, and we came in like 35 or 45,000 less. And they accepted that offer.
Yep.
And it wasn't because it was better than any other one. It was FHA, right?
It was.
It was an FHA offer on a 2-family.
Mhm.
In Passaic County. Like, this is unheard of that it got accepted. But I'm telling you, and I'm not bragging, but I'm telling you just because I want you to understand the importance. It was the conversation. I did MMFI. Who knows what that is?
What's in it for me?
Make me feel important.
Make me feel
Right.
important. I made Vaughn Smith feel important. I said thank you, and I said, Jason, this might not be the highest offer, but I created a story around it, right? I said, it's his first house. He works for me here. I will tell you this, that I'll answer my phone. We'll do whatever we say we're going to do. We're not going to miss any deadlines, and we're not going to play any games. If that works for you and your client, I hope to do business with you. Accept the offer as is. Okay, and I can guarantee you, most other circumstances, without that engagement, it would not have been. I'm sure it wasn't the highest offer. And Frank, it wasn't the highest offer, right?
It was not.
So anyway, that's how you make your own luck in this business. Wow, it's 42 minutes in. So sample weekly operating framework. Maybe you do 1 or 2 critical things every day. Maybe Monday you review all your active buyers, right? And maybe you're active and you're pending. Maybe on Tuesday you do all your follow-up on lead generation. Wednesday you follow up on all your active buyers. Thursday maybe you work on your database, and that may be the day you send out your weekly email of value. And then Friday, maybe you're prepping for the weekend. You know, I'm not saying that those are the activities that you should embrace, but I think you should have a structure so that it's predictable, right? You know what you're going to do. It's the whole Elon Musk always wears black. You know why he always wears a black t-shirt and black pants? Who knows the answer to that?
This way here, he doesn't have to think about his wardrobe.
So one less thing to think about, right? So if he has to get up in the morning, think about like he must make more money than you, Bobby, and me, like in 3 seconds, and we make in a year, right? So the fact that he's not wasting 3 seconds thinking about what he's going to wear, is putting hundreds of millions of dollars in his pocket in a year, and that's the type of thinking that we need to have. Is like let's simplify the thought process. On Tuesdays, you come in, you don't need to think about what you're going to do. You just know, hey, this is what I do on Tuesdays. All right. Um, we talked about accountability. Maybe after today, from seeing how many people don't have an accountability partner, and I think some of them who are on this call who didn't raise their hand, if you're on a team and you're on one of our teams, you have an accountability partner. You have somebody that's got your best interest all the time. There's a part. So I wanted to ask, like, what do you think that if you were to take a look in the mirror, that you're doing really well in the agent operating system, and what's one thing that you feel you can improve upon? And I'm going to put this caveat: if you answer the question, you have to do both. You can't just say I do this great without reflecting on what you can improve upon. So thinking about the things that we discussed, who wants to volunteer and say, hey, this is what I do great and this is what I can improve upon, just to humanize us all? Nobody.
Oh, I'll embarrass myself if it matters. What I do, I think, really well is our follow-up systems, communicating with, building the relationships with clients, because we believe that that's the most important thing. The thing I could do better, every time I, set out to involve stuff with like AI, some of the other systems I want to grow, I get bogged down with something else. I put it on the back burner, and it bogs me down. So it frustrates me that I can't get some of that done.
So when you're I guess working on like something that you can do differently, maybe it's with AI, right?
Mhm.
Do you let that kind of break, like if you allocate a half an hour for it and you're not quite done, do you let that continue to run the clock, or do you have the ability to block your time and come back to it later? Or even which is better?
Well, actually, I think and AI is a great example because I've been trying to do something for a couple of weeks now. Uh, I have to do it like at night when I know I won't get, somebody else is going to bug me. And I know I've got 2 or 3 hours just uninterrupted. I can deep dive into something because in some of the systems that we try to generate or we try to build, you need an allotted time because, coming back, going forward, coming back, going forward, sometimes doesn't work. You go, okay, you get to a stopping point, you won't come back to it. And I know with certain things like AI, I just need to find that block and just say, look, I'm going to do it tonight. I've got something on my calendar I want to do tomorrow. So that's my biggest downfall is I have something down. I keep pushing that block back because it's not building me money today. It could build me money in the future, which I know I need to implement more of.
Wonderful. Anybody else want to volunteer so we can
Somebody
get
else
time
better because I put myself out there. Somebody else do it.
I will. So, Rob, I don't know if you saw in the chat, but my 3 C's this year are collaborate, communicate, and cooperate. And I think, and when we have that with the agent on the other side, it's a win-win for all parties to work in the best interest of our clients. And I always tell my clients when I first start working with them that I pride myself in responding to a text very timely. Often it's hard to check email when you're in the car or with clients, but it's really easy to text. And I think you set that up. And we were talking before about active clients. Personally, if I have the opportunity to have a referral coming inbound or even clients, first time home buyers that are not going to be buying for 6 months to a year, I love to put them on a search in the communities that they have interest in, set them up on their portal. And that way we can both learn the market in the 6 months to a year, or whether it's 60 or 30 days. So anyway, that's my throw out for today.
And what do you want to improve? Like, what do you, what's your vulnerability or what's your weakness that you need to improve?
Time. I think and I need to monitor my time better. And I love these masterminds because I think it really brings forward our strengths and our weaknesses and encourages us to work on both.
Wonderful.
Time blocking, I think, is a weakness. And doing paperwork. As a matter of fact, that's on my goal to have a transaction coordinator.
Wonderful. All right.
So thank you.
Is there anyone that has something that you're going to take away and implement in the next week as a result of today's? Because I want to make sure this is not edutainment, okay? Where we get on here, we listen to some really great ideas, like going to a conference, and then you leave and you go back home and you have all these great ideas but execute none. I've been there many times. I'll raise both my hands, where you come back with these great ideas and then you get nothing done. So if you could just take a moment and think about what you're going to implement as a result of this session. Otherwise, I'm going to put it out there and say that we wasted an hour of time. We don't implement anything.
I'll jump in one more time. And I think this mastermind really brings a lot of ideas, credibility to each and every one of us in a roundabout way. It is an accountability.
And I know
just showing up.
I have a new accountability partner, so I'm excited.
Okay. And sometimes, Sierra, when you come to these events and you come to the mastermind and maybe you don't execute something right away, I think maybe these things are on the back of your mind, hopefully, that at certain points in your business that you dig down in your memory bank and it provides you with my voice telling you that you don't have bad luck, right? And then you can figure out how to make these deals work, right? Because nobody has bad luck. We have bad systems, bad processes, bad communication, which doesn't make us bad. It gives us opportunity to improve. That's what it all means, in my opinion.
So, Rob, I want to point out that one of the things we talked about earlier, well, part of it was Glenn Baker and his sending a video along with an offer. The key there that really carries over to so many different things is no one's going to represent your client better than you. So, given an opportunity to impress the listing agent on behalf of your client, your buyer client, is unbeatable, and I feel that, when I was actively doing this, I was visible at all showings of my listings so that I'd have an opportunity to talk to potential buyers to convince them why they should be buying this house. That interaction one-on-one is incomparable to anything else you want to do to represent your clients.
So, Robert, one thing that you said there just triggered a thought in my mind, and it kind of goes back to Glenn and the Paris Challenge. Two things, Glenn, I think you used the phrase "stop the clock," right? When you have people that are looking, they feel like it's innocent to just kick tires and look around for a while, and that is okay if that's what you want to do, but you need to understand the consequence of that, right? And what does it mean by waiting? And I think what our industry has trained us to do is to be, obedient, part of that old car analogy, right? Obedience, loyalty. But what it doesn't teach us to do is it doesn't teach us to educate them on the cost of not doing business, right? The impact of not taking action, right? Because I don't think anybody is going to make a credible argument that over time real estate's not going to go up in value, right? I mean, there may be a hiccup or two along the way, but over time, real estate goes up in value. Over time, property owners are significantly with a capital S wealthier than their peers that rent. Okay. We don't do a good job, in my opinion, as an industry of educating clients, potential clients, of that divergence of net worth and why it's significant if you're looking to buy a house, why waiting a year or 3 or 5 years can be rather expensive, right? I think Glenn, do you remember what's the cost of waiting 5 years? You know that number approximately?
No, I actually I switch it the other way where I tell the story about how they can buy now opposed to the other because one came across kind of as a little bit of a fear tactic, I guess you'd say. But I incorporate stop the clock and I tell them a story. I hear people all the time. As a matter of fact, someone told me yesterday, "Oh, you can't buy a house. It's too expensive to live in Booton." And I said, "Well, that's funny. I just sold the house to somebody and they put $1,000 out of pocket and they're not a veteran." So I think your story is different than my story. Can I tell you mine? And that changes the tone very quickly.
So it's more than just trying to show them, bedrooms, baths, location, condition. It's trying to get them convinced that they want to be a home owner before we go into the home buying process, right? We both have different perspectives of that. But I mean, waiting for 5 years, I think the NAR stat is for the average home, which most of our offices are above average. It's $83,000 for waiting 5 years of lost net worth. $83,000 of lost net worth by waiting just 5 years. Most people, especially first-time home buyers, probably are not saving more than 25,000 a year towards buying their house. So, basically they can just pull the trigger, be in there. Whatever money they were putting on savings, they could still wind up saving that money, put it into their 401k, buy another property, and see that appreciation work in their favor. So that's one of the things that I just want to put out there is let's stop selling bedrooms and baths and condo versus single family. Talk about what does home ownership mean. Let's educate them that homeowners are 41 times wealthier than their renting partners. And if you're not good with math, that's not 41%, folks. That's 41 times wealthier. Okay. And even at higher income levels, the separation is even greater. The multiple is not greater. So people making $250,000 or more, okay, it's probably 4 times wealthier, which means that instead of having a net worth of 800,000, your net worth is over $3 million. If you're making $250,000, if you have a client buying a family or a client that's making $250,000, wouldn't they rather have a net worth of 3.5 million versus 800,000? Significant difference, not 40 times, but still significant. Okay. And in Florida, we need to be educating. Did the governor sign the new homestead bill, right?
You talk about taxes and what?
Isn't your portable homestead is increased to 500,000? I thought I
It
read.
goes on the ballot in November. It has to be voted on by the population. It has to get what 60% or 66%, whatever it is.
Well, if you're giving people a reduction in taxes, I'm going to guess they'll get those votes. But anyway, there's a reason though, and I think Jason, you have to be, if it goes through in November, you have to be a homeowner as the end of December, otherwise it phases in, correct?
Yeah, so you immediately get the first onset, so it reduces your taxes by like 70%. Then the second year goes to 100. If you weren't this year, you phase in over a 5-year stretch. You have to live here for 5 years to get the 100% or so. I have to read the whole bill. There are some ups and downs about it. I don't know if it'll have 2/3 support, but it'll get close.
But even if it doesn't, Jason, don't you think potential buyers deserve to understand that and make that decision themselves? And I don't think our industry is educating them well. So whoever's in Florida on here, raise your hand, and that's who you should be giving referrals to, people who are thinking about going to Florida. Okay, send them down there because you might be helping them or at least giving them the opportunity. They'll thank you for having the opportunity to know how that works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's part of the added value that I think we all can do. And
Hey, can I
They
say
had,
something, Rob?
yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I could finally unmute myself. I'm sorry. My phone would it must be my phone, can't be me. But I went to my iPad and I'm able to. I just wanted to tell you that I really do appreciate what you're doing with these Friday calls. I'm transitioning from being a broker to be back to being an agent, and I'm excited about it, by the way. And I'm a Buffini guy. I would definitely believe that he gives me a lot. I've preached it so many years that I'm going to go back to living it the way I should. But I'm very much believing in the Buffini system, and it will. And I wrote down a ton of notes that people I got today. I got a lot out of what Wilson said about how he follows up after his. Anyway, I just want to tell you I appreciate it, and I did figure out my mute button. So.
So my last assignment for everybody, besides going through and taking inventory of yourself, is if you find any value, invite two of your peers, hopefully with the company, even if they're not with the company, to attend here, because I think the bigger the event is, the more value we have from other contributions. And please, just you all know two people in your office or two people in the industry, invite them to come to next week's. And if you have any ideas on how I could better serve you, send me a message and copy your manager so that we can incorporate that into our sessions. Because I really get value out of trying to, help you have a breakthrough and take care of your clients better and maybe simplify the business a little bit. Because there's so many moving parts here, and so many of you are doing so well that if I can transfer some of that talent, some of that energy to everybody else, we'll all be super agents. All right. So thanks for coming. And I know it's summertime. I know it's inconvenient to dedicate an hour, but I hope you get a couple of things out of every one of these hours. Thanks, everybody.